One of the things when we talk about accessible design, one of the main concerns we had when talking with neurodivergent individuals was issues of sound effects. A lot of sensory sensitivities revolve around unexpected noises that can cause significant issues for the individual doing an interview or just in their daily life. So our goal is to remove a lot of those triggers. So while we have background noises, we have the sounds of nature, what we're really trying to avoid are unexpected noises, alerts, things along those lines, sounds that might kind of take the player out of the immersion, that might ruin their immersion in the environment. So while we have the nature noises, one of the main things that we heard, for example, is chirping sounds, especially when you think of what like a fire alarm sounds like, or maybe an alert on your phone, is often a huge trigger for neurodivergent individuals. So one of the main things we did was give them a lot of control over what types of sounds and how loud they are. And now this is important because it's not just about making the game more accessible for the individual, but it also tells us things about them that will help us make a more accurate match. For example, if an individual decides to turn down the volume and lower, say, the luminosity of the environment, we will probably match them with a remote job. This is an individual who likes to control their environment and work under very specific circumstances. So from the settings that they've put in the game, something very basic like that, we'll be able to assess what type of environment this individual will most likely thrive in. And that may be something they don't even know about themselves. Now you can see on the bottom, this is a bit of the story of the game. So whenever the player solves a puzzle, the kit, their companion, unlocks a little bit more of what's going on in the world. And over time, over the playthroughs, the player will unlock these stories. And in fact, to complete the loop of the island, which we can go to in a moment, the player will need to take the disparate parts of the story and complete it. So essentially, the player is getting these pieces of story out of order. And in order to restart the island, to basically get a win state, they're going to need to go back to the player home and put the story in proper order. Not only is that good for just understanding it more, but it also tells us, how does the player understand a reason? Do they understand the story structure? Things along those lines.
So basically, every aspect of this game is used to assess an individual and their workability. Their employability, their characteristics for different work placements. All of these, so, every single element of this.
Exactly. And so I'm going to bring us back to the main island here, just so I can show you the story aspect that we just talked about. So what we're seeing here, and as you can tell, it's an early version, is the storyline through this first part of the game. So we haven't fully unlocked it yet, but each one of these are essentially parts of a story from when the player, or sorry, the kit had done past observances. And so what you can see here, and even this text that we selected is intentionally designed for neurodivergent individuals. So the stories are meant to give similar examples of not just observations like this, but of certain different societies and different techniques. And as the player in the real world struggles with mirroring and other issues of fitting in, many of these stories are about the challenges the observers face in integrating within the societies that they are observing. So, really, for example, the stories here are about a society that is intensely paranoid, suspicious, and really has very little trust between its individuals. So as you read the story, what you'll start to see is that the observer, the kit, starts to mirror that behavior in their own observations. So not only are there multiple stories that take place within this world, but we'll start to see how does the observer absorb those lessons of how the society interacts with each other and how it affects them as a blank slate.
Because, I'm really not qualified now, but it's not ideal that people have to mirror to put themselves into a position that they're not comfortable in. People need to be themselves.
People need to be themselves.
And they need to flourish as themselves.
Exactly. And so we really wanted to, in many ways, kind of replicate, not replicate, but mirror is the right word here, the user's experience. That
Hmm.
this is something that they're currently having to face. This is something that they deal with on a daily basis. And so a lot of the story has to come with, how do you solve that? How do you identify and show your true self when you're faced with challenges like having to mirror in order to fit into a work environment?